Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're off to a great start. We got college football playoff rankings to react to. I don't know that Brian Callahan is going to be at the podium during the show. Is he, in fact?
He sure is.
Okay, well, then perhaps we will even hear from the Titans head coach. A win warrants a little extra attention, so
11:55.
we'll bob and weave throughout the course of the day. We're going to cram the rest of the week into the Wednesday show because there is no more live shows anyway for the station. Obviously, Blaine and Zach will be on today. Obviously, 3HL will be on today. But just like you, we're going to take Thanksgiving off, and apparently we're off on Friday too. If it was my way, we would have worked. You two are lucky.
There will be a lot of football on this station over the course of the next few days. Live football. I am thankful for that. What are you thankful for, Buck? There he is. Something's loose in the studio.
The chair moved.
Just scurry out of here.
That's as close as you've been to getting kicked in the stomach.
No, he tried to talk into a mic. That's not going to be potted up. Bye, Bert.
Have a great Thanksgiving. I'm not grateful for him.
I am thankful for him. He got his braces off yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that.
He looks amazing.
Does he?
He looks amazing.
Handsome man.
Handsome man.
This is up for some matter of debate, I feel. He's more normal looking now without the braces on. Not that if you're out there and you have braces that you should be self-conscious.
Wow, that is what you're saying.
mean.
That's what I heard when you said
Dealt
that.
with it for quite some time. I'm just saying that I don't know that many people who at this point in their life have had to get braces, though I know that those people are out there.
Yeah, you're judging those people, it sounds like, and
No,
I don't
Bert.
appreciate that.
I'm judging Bert. It's just the one person. I'm allowed to judge just the one person. The rest of you are fine, but he's a particularly unfortunate-looking character anyway, and so the braces, it fits the aesthetic, and now I don't really know what to do with him. Now he's just a crazed-looking person with great teeth and long hair.
I'm happy for him.
I am too.
It's been a long road.
You're not here to hear about Bert's dental work this morning, one would assume. You're here to hear about the college football playoff rankings. So,
There is news in the NFL. Should we hit on that first? Where should we start? CFP rankings, NFL news, or the Jelly Roll concert last night?
Jelly Roll's my Friday Fire.
Okay.
On a Wednesday.
Save that. Jelly
we'll
Roll
save that.
will make a repeat appearance on Friday Fire.
Was excellent, and those of you who got to attend, I'm sure you had a tremendous time on a Tuesday night at Bridgestone Arena, but we will save that for a little bit later in the show. My sense is that we should start with the most newsworthy news, which is that of the college football playoff, unless you think Daniel Jones and his backup situation is more relevant than your beloved college football, because that's what you're trying to tell me.
No.
And now I've backed you into a corner that you usually put me in.
Daniel Jones has signed with the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it later.
Excellent. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State are the top four teams. Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia, then Tennessee at 8 in the latest iteration of the college football playoffs, which of course means that Indiana is ranked below Tennessee, unlike I believed or how I believed this thing might play out. Now, the interesting wrinkle in here is SMU, or one of the interesting wrinkles in here is SMU, who leapfrogs Indiana. That's 9 and 10. Boise State 11, Clemson 12. Now you have three-loss SEC teams who are still in the top 15, it's worth noting, but are on the outside looking in Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina before you get to the rest of the field. Now, the first-round buys, Oregon, Georgia, Miami, Boise. The first-round matchups, fascinating. If it were to hold, I know we have more time, but Tennessee at Georgia, not ideal for you.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Tennessee fans so up in arms about that, we got to go to Georgia because the draw would be, as it stands today, Tennessee goes to Georgia and winner plays Oregon. That's a tough draw. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Georgia's about to play Georgia Tech, and then they're going to play the SEC championship game. If they win the SEC championship game, they will be one of the top 4 seeds. So if Tennessee were to remain where they are currently seated, they would not be playing Georgia, and we don't know what else is going to happen this weekend. So the bracket, crumple it up and throw it away. The rankings matter. Where you currently stand matters. Who you are currently slated to play does not matter. There is still a lot of football to be played, even though we're heading into the last week of the regular season. So I can confidently say Tennessee will not be going to Georgia. It's hard to envision a scenario. Georgia would have to lose the SEC championship, and then both teams would have to not budge from their rankings. I have a hard time seeing that kind of hold serve.
One of my favorite things, by the way, you can join us on this Wednesday if you are so inclined. 615-737-1045, the F&M Bank chat, also available to you. If you are interested in making some comments there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. What I very much enjoy is when Lucas makes a very salient, fact-based point, and the chat completely ignores him and talk about how they're going to beat Georgia this time around anyway. That I very much enjoy.
We're going to get them this time.
Because that's what people see when they see a bracket. They don't care about what's to come. They don't care what came before. They only care that we're going back between the hedges, baby, and we're taking it to the Bulldogs. And we're going to hit them right in their ugly mouths.
I don't want to go.
Matt Murphy, eat it. Ben Jones, eat it.
I don't want to go back to Athens.
No, of course not. That would be a terrible draw for you. But to Lucas's point, the rankings are the critical part here. The bracket's just for fun. The bracket's just for you to visualize. Sure. It's just for fun. Like I can enjoy the fun of the bracket. I can enjoy the idea of potentially just wave upon wave of BVS that would hit. Should that actually be your path to the college football national championship. I can also enjoy the idea of two SEC teams, two of the three SEC teams in the field facing each other in the first round, which is nonsense. The notable part about the rankings is that there are three SEC teams in this top 12 as is currently constructed. And as we mentioned, the three-loss teams hovering still there. 1, 2, 3, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, or I guess I should say 13, 14, and 15.
What I took away from yesterday is that Indiana should be thanking their lucky stars that Alabama and Ole Miss lost.
Yes.
The committee dropping them down to 10 makes me think they would have been on the outside looking in had Alabama and Ole Miss taken care of their business over the weekend.
But that's the most logical decision I think I've seen them make in this whole process. I think that makes the most sense. Like, I know I made the case for them to be ranked above Tennessee yesterday, and we kind of debated that as far as the merits of each team's schedule or the quality of each team's losses or whatever. But what SMU has done, I think it's good to acknowledge SMU.
Absolutely.
As far as what their strength of schedule has actually been juxtaposed to Indiana, which has, a strength of schedule coming into that Ohio State game, or I guess with that Ohio State game that was somewhere hovering around the top 100, 106, 105.
According to ESPN.
Depending on where you look. Wasn't there like a 40 spot difference between some of those other rankings?
Yeah, I think that was the Award Manual strength of schedule ranking. Shot it up into the 30s because of the Michigan game, I think.
I do appreciate Ward. He's keeping my playoff hopes alive at this point. There is going to be a lot of intrigue around this rivalry week because there is still a lot of stuff that can happen. Now, I will say for this show's rooting interest, all Indiana and Tennessee have to do is handle business this weekend. And it's no sure thing against Vanderbilt. I would say it's more of a sure thing against Purdue. Purdue was particularly dreadful this year.
I would agree.
But stranger things have happened. So
be careful with the Boilermakers.
What do you mean, be careful with the Boilermakers?
Just be careful.
Have they kept a game close all season?
Not to my knowledge, which again delights me. I should send a nasty text message to Dennis Kelly at some point just to remind him of how wretched his football team is this year.
They did keep it close last weekend. They lost by a touchdown to Michigan State. They lost in overtime to Northwestern, and they lost in overtime by a point to a ranked Illinois team. So they actually have given a few teams some trouble.
Jackson was right?
Uh-huh.
Jackson's never right.
They've given a few teams some trouble.
If the 2021 Music City Bowl taught me anything, be careful with the Boilermakers.
Don't never count out the 1 in 10 Purdue Boilermakers.
Okay, please never count out the refs in that Music City Bowl. That game and the defense for Tennessee was just horrendous. I think that's the first Tennessee game I went to with Lucas. And where I was first exposed to his just level of vitriol for whomever is on the opposition on any given day.
Was that the origin of kill him?
No, that was actually at an East Nashville bar in front of many, many people who looked at him sideways because nobody else was screaming for physical harm to befall the Florida quarterback.
Don't know what you're talking about. Do you remember who the Purdue quarterback was in that Music City Bowl?
Ooh, he
threw for 500. Threw for 500
was
yards.
Was it David Blau?
No, it was Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell. Blau did play in the Music City Bowl, right? That was against Auburn?
Oh, yeah, and Purdue got dusted by Auburn in that game.
That was very unfortunate for Purdue. Good day for me. but a bad day for Purdue. Either way, Tennessee, Indiana, all they got to do is take care of their rivalry week opponent. But there is still the Texas A&M game. 13 years, if I'm not mistaken, since those two programs last met.
No, it would have been A&M's first year in the SEC was 2012. So it would have been 2011. So, 13 years the last time they met.
The math is indeed mathing.
It's mathing.
On this Wednesday, 615-737-1045. The number, if you want to jump in, we'd be happy to have you. We've got Adam Sparks. We'll talk about this Vols game against the Commodores just down the road on West End coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken on this Wednesday. Adam Sparks going to be in the house when the 9-2 Tennessee Volunteers come to town to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores just down the road. You've done a great many of these games. By the way, thank you for taking some time on this short week. I know it's a work week for you as well, but you've done a lot of these games on both sides of things, Adam. So what's been your favorite rivalry week between Tennessee and Vandy game to cover?
Well, that's a weird one because there was some blowouts by Tennessee since I've been in Knoxville. There was some surprise win. There was a run of Vandy wins when I used to cover Vanderbilt. So it was usually the build-up. There was a whole lot of questions of like which team are you going to get of either side. I mean, the more competitive wins was when I covered Vanderbilt a number of years ago. It's interesting. I've heard some comparisons this week. More so, I guess, on the Vandy side or the anxious Vol fan side, the Nega-Vol, so to speak, of the 2016 game. I think that was the 2016 game.
Yeah.
You know, where Tennessee went in. If they win, they're in the Sugar Bowl, and they just have to beat Vandy, and Vandy beat them, kept them out of the Sugar Bowl. I think there's some similarities there. Now, that year, Vandy beat Georgia in Athens. Of course, Tennessee did too. But so you knew Vandy could win that game. I still think it's a little different than this year because I felt like on Tennessee's side that year they thought, Vandy's not bad. They're better than normal, but it's still you're going to win the game. Where this year, I think there's more of a legitimate respect for Vanderbilt on Tennessee's side. Like I don't think it's lip service that they think this is going to be a very competitive game. I think they believe it. I don't think they believed it in 2016. And so I'd say that's the difference. And, you know, Vandy beat Alabama. Vandy should have beaten or had a chance to beat Texas. But I think just schematically it looks different this year than some other years. Pavia could be a problem. Tennessee has a really good pass rush, but they have issues wrapping up when they get to the quarterback if the quarterback is mobile and slippery, and that's what Pavia is. Vandy, runs some option stuff, quarterback runs that, frankly, Tennessee hasn't seen this year. Milroe didn't really do it that much in the Alabama game, so Tennessee hasn't seen that. Vandy is really good throwing to the tight ends, using motion, using deception with some of their motion, and Tennessee has had problems with that. Ever since Keenan Peely went down, I think opponents have looked at film of Tennessee and said, you can drag their young linebackers' eyes away from the tight end and open up the middle of the field. Georgia did it. Other teams have done it. And I'm sure Vandy turned on the film this week and said, we see 2 or 3 things that Tennessee has broken and has not fixed yet. And we can exploit those things, especially on key third downs to extend drives and shorten the game. And so I think both sides recognize when they turn on film that this should be a competitive game. It's not that it could be, it should be.
KnoxNews.com is where you read him. At Adam Sparks is where you can follow our guest here on 104.5 The Zone.
The other thing about that 2016 game, Adam, which obviously you remember well, is Tennessee had gone into that game a little bit deflated already because they had blown their chance to win the SEC East. Florida's win over LSU had taken that away from Tennessee because of the Vols loss to South Carolina. So the Sugar Bowl thing was sort of a salvaging, well, okay, we can make the Sugar Bowl, right? We can go 9-3 and make the first New Year's Six Bowl in however many years. And Vanderbilt, on the flip side, was playing for bowl eligibility that week and a chance to ruin Tennessee's shot at a New Year's Six Bowl. So there is none of that deflating feeling for the Vols going into this game, right? It is pretty uniform across the building, the understanding that Dylan Sampson said it the other day, right? This is a playoff game for Tennessee. So I wouldn't think there would be any worry about overlooking this Vanderbilt squad as you were outlining.
Yeah, and I think also the sense that this is going to be a close game, and I have that sense, is just really the setup of the two teams. Vandy has held every opponent except for one in the last 7 games under 30. The one game they gave up more than 30 was the Alabama game. They won it. Tennessee has given up they haven't given up more than 20 points in any game except one, and that was Georgia. They lost that game. You put those together and you say this is going to be a low-scoring game on either side. And if it's low-scoring, it's probably going to be close. I just think both teams come in thinking you got to get to 24. You got to get to 28. If you get to 30, you for sure win the game. And, that makes up for a short game, a low-scoring game. I don't think Tennessee wants it that way. What's going to be interesting is how Tennessee approaches the side on offense, because if Josh Heupel is aggressive and tries to score early, goes for it on fourth down, doesn't kick field goals, doesn't play field position, which he's done all year, which is out of his nature. But if he tries to press things and try to get up early on Vandy and take risks, that could backfire because it shortens the game and you miss a chance to get some points, or it could really put Vandy in a corner, because I think Vandy certainly expects to have few possessions on either side, low scoring. Tennessee has played it that way, but if their offense can click, then they're going to win the game. It just hasn't clicked, and we're in, the 12th game of the year, and you're still waiting for Tennessee to have that, big passing day, big tempo day, a day where they can put up 40 on a good team, and it just looks like it's not going to happen.
What's been the dialogue in Knoxville about that part specifically, Adam? Because, we obviously follow it closely here, but there's just such a different dynamic, it seems, in East Tennessee when it comes to the level of scrutiny on this offense right now and the way, the hand-wringing during the first quarter of the UTEP game. I had to check in on some Vols fan friends.
Yeah, it was denial for a while that the offense just wasn't going to be what it's been. And then it's been acceptance, I think, since really the Georgia game. This is a hard offense to watch. It's especially if you're conditioned to watch the last few years under Josh Heupel. You can just hear groaning in Neyland Stadium of when the team's scoring, 27 points or something, because people are just like, when is this 3 touchdowns in 5 minutes thing going to happen? Because I'm used to seeing that. And there has been an acceptance since the Georgia game that that's not what this team is. It's going to be a grinding, hand-wringing type game, and some fans are conditioned to that, some aren't. But you have to run the ball, you have to play defense, and that's the way that they're going to have to win this game. If they get in the playoff, that's the type of games they're going to have to play. Josh Heupel is very uncomfortable coaching these types of games, but it's not going to get fixed. I think the funny thing is each week I get a lot of fans emailing me, texting me, whatever, where they think they know the reason. Oh, well, Nico is off target. Well, the receivers drop balls. The offensive line isn't holding up. The play calling, they don't know what to do. They're not using the tight end. Like, everybody has a culprit, somebody to blame. There's like 5 or 6 different people to blame. The answer is it's all of them. There's an inconsistency to the offense, and I don't think that gets fixed in in the week of Thanksgiving. So you just have to live with it, reset next year, and with a lot of different players next year too. But this is what this team is.
What have we learned about, I know there will be plenty of time, after the season, whenever their season ends up coming to a close, to kind of be reflective that way. But since that's been a part of this season's story, waiting for the offense to click, and it seemingly might not, at least in the course of the regular season and potentially into the playoffs, obviously, at this point. What has that taught you, or what have you learned about Josh Heupel, seeing him kind of navigate that situation in particular?
He can adjust if needed. I think there's some stubbornness to him, like there is any offense-centric coach. They think they have a system, and the system's always going to work. But he has adjusted in ways that I think Lane Kiffin hasn't, in different ways, in ways that Kalen DeBoer hasn't. Here's the story of the playoff this year, and especially the argument for the SEC, is that it's no longer, in this playoff era, 12-team era, it's no longer necessarily about who you beat or who your bad losses are. It's just really surviving. It's survive and advance to some extent. It's, Tennessee had a stretch in the middle of the year where they had Oklahoma, Arkansas, Florida, Alabama. Well, only one of those is a top 25 game, but it's finding a way to win ugly at Oklahoma, which Alabama could not do. You lost at Arkansas, which is a tough place to play, but then you come home and win ugly in overtime against Florida. It's winning, and really after an ugly first half against Alabama, it's just pulling out games that you have to pull out in this conference, and that's why Tennessee on the field doesn't look great, but the resume looks better. That's why they're in the playoff, and Josh Heupel has a lot to do with it. He has accepted that you really just need to win. You just need to win, and that's what he has on Saturday. He just needs to win. If he wins this one by a point, Tennessee's in the playoffs, and you figure out how to fix things the next week.
Adam Sparks, the Knoxville News Sentinel, here with us talking Vols and Vandy coming up this weekend on 104.5 The Zone.
All right, so with that said, Tennessee wins at Vanderbilt if what happens?
Obviously, if Tennessee can get to 30, they win the game. If Tennessee is up at the half, they win the game. If they have more possessions than Vandy typically gives up, they're going to win the game. It's a lot of it's tempo. It's not the tempo that Tennessee's been playing. But the thing is, I don't think they're going to win the turnover margin. If you tell me Tennessee wins the turnover margin, they're going to win by 2 scores. But Vandy does not lose the turnover margin. They've turned it over 6 times in 11 games. And that's another thing that should scare Tennessee because they flip field a lot with those types of games. But if Tennessee is really good in the red zone, they win this game because if they're getting 7 and Vandy's getting 3, they're going to win the game. If Vandy's holding them to 3 in the red zone, which that's been an issue for Tennessee, then we're going to have a pretty close game on our hands. And a lot of that comes down to Dylan Sampson, yes, but Tennessee has been great inside the 10. They've been terrible between the 10 and the 20. They got to figure out how to pierce the 10-yard line and therefore get the ball to Dylan Sampson.
So we understand that, this is all a moot point if Tennessee does not take care of business on Saturday, winning in, like you were saying. But you've written about this on Knox News as folks kind of look at the CFP rankings, how it could shake out a week from yesterday. What are the scenarios in which Tennessee, in your mind, could host a college football playoff game? What would Vols fans, assuming knowing they need the win at Vanderbilt, what else should Vols fans be rooting for this weekend for that to happen?
Notre Dame loses at USC, which is plausible. I think Tennessee would move into that spot. If Georgia wins the SEC title, and so they would get the bye. If Texas lost to Texas A&M, maybe Texas falls behind Tennessee. I think that's one that could happen. Any other upsets ahead of Tennessee obviously would move them up a spot. But the Texas A&M game is a weird one because you don't want Texas A&M to win and then beat Georgia because then it's going to bump everybody back, including Tennessee. You get another SEC team in. But if Texas A&M could beat Texas in that game and then lose to Georgia, then maybe Texas falls behind Tennessee. I tend to think the easiest way is just Notre Dame loses to USC because a lot of the other scenarios, I think Tennessee stays at the 9 seed, but they're playing somebody different. Instead of playing Georgia, they play Texas in Austin or play at Notre Dame. I think those games, I think, are more likely that Tennessee's going on the road to like a Notre Dame or a Texas. I hope they don't go to Georgia. Like, nobody wants that. Georgia doesn't want that. Tennessee doesn't want that. I don't think that'll hold because I think Georgia probably wins the SEC title. But if you're rooting for one thing, watch that Notre Dame-USC game.
The Doak Walker finalists came out this week, and Dylan Sampson was not among the 3 finalists there. And I like the context that you gave it on Twitter just for how surprising a player with the kind of resume that Dylan Sampson has put together is not even in the final 3, given the other players who are also in the running this year.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't going to win it because Genty at Boise State's going to win it, which he should, 2,000-yard rusher. But Dylan should have been a finalist, one of the 3 finalists. Number one, he's the best running back in the SEC. The best running back in the SEC should almost always be a finalist. But his numbers are phenomenal. He's chasing Derrick Henry's record for the SEC rushing touchdowns record in a single season. All his numbers prop up the fact that he should be a Doak Walker finalist. But I think the biggest thing is that we a lot of times, like in Heisman voting and a lot of these awards, we judge like the quarterbacks and how the team is. If you're a playoff team, if you're in the top 10 and all that, your quarterback gets like extra credit. This was like the Stetson Bennett argument for the Heisman finalist a couple years ago with Georgia. Well, Dylan Sampson is that guy for Tennessee. He's just not the quarterback. If Dylan Sampson doesn't have this type of year, Tennessee finishes this year like an 8-4 team. If Dylan, because it's not on the quarterback, Nico has been fine, but it's been all on the running back. It's been all on the run game, and he has carried this team offensively to where it is. And I just don't think you can say that about Genty. You can't say that about any other running back in the country except for Sampson.
At Adam Sparks is where you follow him, knoxnews.com, where you read all his great Tennessee Volunteers coverage. The Vols coming to town to take on Vandy this rivalry week on West End, 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff. You can hear it right here on 104.5 The Zone. Buddy, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you as always for the info, and enjoy the game this weekend.
Same to you guys. We'll see.
That is Adam Sparks. I really think he's the best person covering Tennessee.
I believe they're calling Saturday the Adam Sparks Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
I wonder how uncomfortable he was, because when he left the Vandy beat to go to Knoxville, I think Vanderbilt gave him like a framed jersey, and I don't know how somebody with the journalistic sensibilities of Adam Sparks would respond to that. I'm sure he appreciated the sentiment. But yes, it is in fact the Adam Sparks Bowl. If that was me in that position, I would make it about me. Adam is not me, so he does not want anything to do with that. He just wants to cover good football and tell fun stories and good college football stories the way that he so expertly does.
Yeah, he brought up some interesting parallels to that 2016 game, just in terms of Tennessee going into that game, trying to accomplish something. Vanderbilt also trying to accomplish something in bowl eligibility, which they have already accomplished this season, but also wanting to ruin Tennessee's season. So for Vanderbilt, it's about getting 7 wins and ruining the end of Tennessee's season. And for the Vols, motivation should not be hard to come by, right? This is a playoff game.
I love the idea, though, that the difference is that Vols fans are actually paying Vanderbilt respect.
Yeah, how could you not?
Game. No, I know, but I'm just enjoying the idea that this game has meaningful stakes that both sides feel.
Yeah.
Because it's been some time. I know, to your point, there were things trying to be accomplished there, but this has a different kind of gravity. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I agree with Adam. I think it's going to be a close game. Vanderbilt, their depth has taken some hits because they already, to begin with, don't have the depth of a Tennessee or a Georgia or so on, a team at the top of the SEC. And so as the rigors of a regular season come along, there could be a little bit of a drop-off, but they've just continued to scrap, and they wouldn't really go away in Baton Rouge. I know LSU had a 14-point lead late, and Vanderbilt scored to make it 7, but they were just hanging around on the road under the lights in Baton Rouge and Death Valley. So Diego Pavia's been banged up, but he's going to keep playing through it. I wonder how much more they take him off the field in favor of Nate Johnson, the quarterback that has come in to kind of be a running option for Vanderbilt. Because Diego Pavia and what he's done against teams in the run game, the quarterback run game, has been a big reason for their success. And Tennessee has done well against quarterbacks that will have designed QB runs called for them. They shut down Jalen Milroe in that Alabama game. I think he had 11 rush yards or something, and we saw what he can do in that regard, especially against LSU. Tennessee has had trouble against quarterbacks that, they're not necessarily run-first guys, or it's not a big part of their game, but they can escape the pocket, right, and catch linebackers off balance and, as Coach Mack would say, eat some stripes and pick up a big first down, like Carson Beck did. Beck's not a dual-threat quarterback, but he's got those long strides that when there's an opening, he can really hurt you there. So Pavia is kind of in the middle, where he's a good runner. He's not an elite runner like a Jalen Milroe, where you're constantly trying to get him out in space, but he can really hurt you when he's scrambling around. How close is he to 100% is a big question in that regard, and how much do we see Nate Johnson called in for a couple of packages, and how does Tennessee handle that, keeping those guys contained in the pocket? Because that is Vanderbilt's best source of a run game. So how much can Tennessee keep Vanderbilt one-dimensional on defense?
Diego Pavia was asked about the fights, or let's say back and forth that broke out in last year's Tennessee-Vanderbilt game, because there were some late hits on A.J. Swann that were not appreciated. And, of course, there's always a little bit of extra contentiousness in these games in particular. This was Diego Pavia talking about the idea of expecting late hits from this Tennessee defense.
You mentioned the fight broke out last year. That was because they had some late hits on A.J. Swann. Are you expecting that again? Is there a way to prepare for that?
Yeah, I always expect people to come in with trying to get me late or something like that. But I got the bulldog mentality. I don't care what they do. I'll be here for it.
I believe them.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not going to be able to intimidate that guy.
No, you're not rattling Diego Pavia. No, it's gonna be a
Diego
dogfight.
Pavia, the giant killer. I'm excited. I looked at changing my flight for the Commanders game so I could try to go to this one. I know you're going to be out of town. Wyatt, I think, Jim Wyatt is going to be in attendance and
I bet he is.
travel with the team this time around and try and catch a later flight out.
You should be able to watch it, right? Southwest usually has the TVs on the back of the seats.
Normally, you would be right, and you know I love my beloved Southwest until they change up the seating protocol on me, and then I'm going to be very, very embittered about it. But the Sunday Night Football broadcast and the Southwest Wi-Fi did not cooperate for me. I was rather displeased with that.
See how they do with an 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPN? I believe.
ABC.
ABC.
It is on ABC. 615-737-1045, the number. On Wednesday, we do the SEC observations. I assume you have some?
I sure do.
That's next. the original artist of that performance is in here, in the building, that nobody else is in because it is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which I assume many, many people take off. I don't know where you think you get off rating the entire company's respective fridges. I don't know how many different people's offices you've gone into. I don't know how many expired food items you have eaten today.
The dumpster out back.
That's where that pepperoni belongs. He said it expired yesterday. It's perfectly good, as he shoveled it in his face with what I can only assume is Ron Slay's Arby's sauce that for some reason exists in the studio.
Because I was hungry, and I kind of view myself as like the tooth fairy, the toothless fairy, if you will. So I'm kind of like the tooth fairy who comes around. You know how kids will leave their teeth underneath their pillow? Are you familiar with the old Scandinavian wives' tale? Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys are aware.
Yeah, I would get nickels. Buck probably got $100 bills.
My dad kept all my teeth. He has a necklace with all my baby teeth on it. It's like Crocodile Dundee.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, hell yeah. They used to be in a jar. He got mad at me one time
Or is
because
this like that time that you told me because I was saying Ashton Genty's wrong Ashton Genty that he wore jeans under his football uniform?
No, for real. My dad about whooped my ass one time because my parents got divorced when I was really little, still losing teeth. So I lost a tooth at my mom's, and my dad was like, don't ever let her have one of your teeth. I want those teeth. I'll pay you top dollar for them.
It's a family heirloom.
Oh, you turned it into a bidding war for your love.
Well, I forgot, and I was kind of excited to see the tooth fairy. I thought she was hot when I was a little kid. So I was like, oh, nice, hot lady putting some underneath my pillow. That'd be
A
cool.
little cosplay with the tooth fairy.
So my dad
that says a lot about your childhood.
So my dad was like, why didn't you bring that tooth back over here? So my dad was super upset that I did not give him the tooth for my noggin.
So he never got a hold of it?
No, I think my mom ended up. My mom said she threw them away.
You should. That's disgusting.
No, what do you mean? If you
A
ever-
necklace made of human baby teeth?
Well, it might be extreme, but I mean, keeping them in a jar, something like that. It's like keeping your toenails and stuff like that.
A memento.
We need to have a discussion at some point about your general health habits, including eating the day expired pepperoni and then convincing Lucas to do the same. You're both disgusting.
Well, that brings me to my point. I am the tooth fairy of refrigerators, so when no one's around, I'll creep around the office, see if there are snacks. I went downstairs, and there was pepperoni, and it went bad yesterday. So if I didn't eat it, if I didn't bring it up here for me and Lucas to feast on it, which, by the way, that's what Thanksgiving's all about. Yep. Thanks for giving food to the downstairs fridge that I can now eat. So I brought the pepperoni up here, and we doused them in Arby's sauce and other accoutrement in the fridge.
The tooth fairy leaves things, not takes things. That's the teeth.
Okay, tooth fairy, take fairy. I'm the take fairy.
He left a nickel in the fridge downstairs.
I did not.
He took the nickel, too. Take your ass to the shadows.
Give me some of that pepperoni.
Happy Thanksgiving from Robert.
Do you think he got to keep his braces?
Oh, no.
They don't give them to you?
Oh, that's too far? The metal things that made your teeth look right?
Make a bracelet out of it?
Instead of the disgusting corroded baby teeth that you want to put in a jar to stare at like somebody's organs after the fact?
Hey, what's that bracelet you're wearing? Oh, these are my braces. Yeah, they let me keep them.
What is the SEC
A braces
observations?
bracelet.
Yeah, that's right. So, who benefits from chaos this weekend? I love conversations about the college football playoff the moment after the rankings come out because they go one of two ways. For me, the correct way to talk about them is, judging how far certain teams fell. Okay, now what position are other teams in that are on the outside looking in? What do they need to happen? The other way to talk about it is, oh, look at that. Tennessee's going to go play Georgia in the first round. No. There's way too many games to be talking about anything in absolutes as it relates to the bracket.
So settle down back there, Jackson.
The BVS from Jackson about not wanting to play Georgia. They're probably not going to play Georgia. The odds are they are not matched up with Georgia.
I don't know why that I've decided that I would like to make Jackson the human embodiment of all things Vol Twitter, but I feel like that's appropriate at this point in time, or at least reactionary.
I'll wear
Vol
that
Twitter.
like a badge of honor.
So, we already talked to Adam Sparks about what it would take for Tennessee to host a playoff game. Vols are one spot outside of being a top 8 seed, even though they are the number 8 ranked team. But Adam Sparks said Notre Dame losing to USC would be the quickest path towards that. I agree. That would probably knock Notre Dame out of the bracket, move Tennessee up a spot, provided, of course, that Tennessee beats Vanderbilt Saturday. That obviously hovers over all of this. The point is moot if the Vols were to lose. So when you look at the teams that are on the outside looking in, Clemson is the first team out. Even though they're the number 12 team in the country, they're the first team out because Arizona State is the highest ranked Big 12 team who comes in at number 16. Alabama is the highest ranked of the three-loss SEC teams. They are number 13, Ole Miss 14, South Carolina 15. So my question is, who gets in if Notre Dame loses to USC? Clemson, who might not even be in the ACC title game, or one of the three-loss SEC teams? Because if Notre Dame does not get in, then there would be 9 spots available outside of the ACC champ, Big 12 champ, and highest-ranked G5 champ. There would be 9 spots available. Let's say 4 out of the Big 10. That leaves 5. So the 3, 2 or less loss SEC teams, assuming they take care of business this weekend, which the Texas A&M thing is no slam dunk.
No guarantee.
And then you still have a couple spots to fill. So, okay, maybe you put the loser of the ACC championship in there.
Well,
and
that's
then
what I was
do?
going to say about this college football playoff bracket, ranking, the latest one to come out, is that it does benefit the ACC based on the way that at least it looks right now, right? Because this at least opens the door a little further for the ACC champ runner-up.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
To make the bracket.
As of now, SMU is in the ACC championship. Miami, if they beat Syracuse, is in. If Miami loses to Syracuse this weekend, Clemson is in. No matter what Clemson does against South Carolina, because Clemson has played all of its conference games. So, let's say that we are having that discussion. Who gets in? Clemson, or whichever ACC team that is left out of so Clemson or Miami, whichever team is left out of the ACC championship, or the best 3-loss SEC team. Here is CFP Chair Ward Manuel talking about evaluating teams that are ranked higher than certain teams despite having more losses.
What's the appetite for ranking a team with more losses ahead of a team with fewer losses? Say a 3-loss team ranked ahead of a 2-loss team, a 2-loss team bumping a 1-loss team out of the field if they weren't at large.
Well, I think the appetite is there to rank the teams as we see them. And if a team with one more loss than a team in front of them and we feel like they should be ahead of them, then we've shown that we will do that. In the past 10 years in the history of the CFP, there has been 22 teams that have been ranked in the top 12 with 3 losses. And so the committee's never been afraid to rank teams with multiple losses within the top 12 if we see them that way.
Okay.
Which falls in line with what has been the general line from him, which is, well, it just depends on how we see them relative to the rest of the competition.
And he's talking about teams like Georgia and Tennessee, who have 2 losses, being ranked ahead of teams like SMU and Indiana, who have 1 loss.
Which is fair, by the way, especially when you have an on-the-field sample size of the talent disparity between a team like Indiana and a team like Ohio State. And you say, well, yes, I understand that team has only 1 loss, but there are clearly better and more talented football teams out there that deserve to be ranked higher. I think that's a completely fair point of discussion. Quickly, before you make your next point, I would like to motion to ban all music in highlight packages on television. It's just because we have such a short attention span and they're just trying to keep you for an extra second longer. But that music without the visual of the actual highlights being shown behind a voice like Ward Manuel's is not inspiring.
With an audio-only medium, it's a lot more distracting than watching on TV where you've got graphics and highlights and all those things. We're going to talk about games with college football playoff implications coming up, but keeping an eye on that Clemson-South Carolina game because South Carolina is the number 15 team in the country, about to play the number 12 team in the country for just a chance to be one of those 3-loss SEC teams with a shout to get in if something like Notre Dame losing to USC were to happen. So not going to be just a chalky weekend. I'm going to go ahead and assume. I think there will be chaos this weekend, and I can't wait to see how that shakeup continues.
College football playoff implications is something that we will do later, because typically we do it later in the week. But coming up next, I have things to give away.
You do. 2 tickets to see Deftones at Bridgestone Arena on March 25th.
The only thing that you have to do to win those Deftones tickets is call us, 615-737-1045, and give us the dumbest thing in sports this week.
11:01, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. College football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday. The Tennessee Vols rose up 3 spots to number 8, 1 spot behind Georgia at 7, and ahead of SMU, who jumped up to number 9. The Indiana Hoosiers slipped down to number 10 after Saturday's loss at Ohio State. In NFL news, the Minnesota Vikings are signing free agent quarterback Daniel Jones, according to Jordan Schultz. Jones was released by the Giants just on Friday. The Titans are on the practice field today in preparation for the trip to Landover, Maryland, to face the Washington Commanders. The team added wide receiver Stanley Morgan to the practice squad on Tuesday, reuniting him with Brian Callahan from their time together in Cincinnati. Callahan will meet with the media today at noon. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
(615-737-1045) is the number. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Jackson, if they call us and they tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is, what do they stand to win? Courtesy of is it the Window Nation ticket window?
Sure, let's go with that. 2 tickets to see Deftones at Bridgestone Arena March 25th.
All right. Exciting. 615-737-1045 is the number. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? I'm not going to say that it's outright dumb. It's just something that I would never in my lifetime consider. We talked a little bit, I think maybe last week, maybe the week prior, about Amanda Serrano, the female boxer who was, I think, robbed in that fight that prefaced the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. She was interviewed by TMZ after the fact, and, one of the biggest talking points was this just unbelievably gnarly injury that she had on her. I mean, I guess it was technically her eyebrow that was split open and hanging off. She refused to leave the ring as a result because she wanted to finish the fight, even though she was being illegally headbutted over and over and over again, specifically by Katie Taylor, right on that injury. And she said, thank God, in this interview, thank God the doctor was a plastic surgeon. I told him, please, I have 2 requests. Don't make it look really bad, and can you do it in a little rush because I have to go watch Jake. She wanted the plastic surgeon doctor who's ringside in that situation to patch her up in time. Just, I don't care just don't make it look like Frankenstein or whatever, and make my eyebrow, put my eyebrow back in its place so that I can go watch this sham of a boxing match. It is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. I respect her commitment to her craft. I respect the intensity that she brings to her work and to her interest in the sport. I also think that there are a million better things that she could have done with her time than watch that fight and not rush her eyebrow repair to get out there just to watch Jake Paul carry Mike Tyson for a couple of rounds.
Hey, her and millions of others around the world. So we're all right there with her.
No, I know. It's me too. I'm dumb.
My dumbest thing in sports this week, postseason individual award finalists in college football. And it's not just Dylan Sampson not being a finalist for the Doak Walker Award.
It is.
Which I think is a little bit ridiculous, but I'm not going to get hung up on it because, like Adam Sparks said, it's Genty's award to win anyway. He's going to win it. He deserves to win it. But yeah, I do think the best running back in the SEC should have been called up. But even dumber than Dylan Sampson not being a finalist for the Doak Walker, how in the world is Travis Hunter not a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award to the nation's best defensive back? I cannot even compute that. And I understand that he is the favorite to win the Heisman, not just because of what he does as a defensive back, but because of how unprecedented he is in terms of playing as much as he does on both sides of the ball, being as productive and dominant as he is. But we're talking about potentially the first corner off the board in the NFL draft if Travis Hunter gets drafted to play corner. I do not understand. It is unfathomable to me how he could not be a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award. Dion said, I'll just give him mine because Dion won it at Florida State.
You can have mine is such a great line.
It's crazy. And then the Maxwell Award, given to the nation's best overall player. It's kind of the NIT of the Heisman, so to speak. Ashton Genty, Travis Hunter, and Dylan Gabriel, the finalists for the Maxwell Award. Cam Ward should be a finalist over Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel likely will not be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, nor should he. Cam Ward likely will, and he should. His numbers are far better. He has carried that team all season long. I don't understand how Dylan Gabriel can be a finalist for the Maxwell over a guy like Cam Ward. That's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Jackson?
I'm going with Dan Hurley for his comments after his team's lost to Memphis this week in the Maui Invitational or the Battle for Atlantis?
I am currently watching the Indiana Hoosiers against the Louisville Cardinals in the Battle for Atlantis.
So I believe this is the Battle for Atlantis, and he got a technical, I believe was ejected in overtime, and then after the game was asked about it, if that technical cost his team the game, he said, I think it was the blank calls. I would expect to come play an event, and I don't know too many back-to-back national championship teams that get that type of whistle. I think expecting a favorable whistle because you're back-to-back national championships is really dumb.
Yeah, you don't have to say the quiet part out loud, Dan.
I've always thought the Baha Mar Championship is the most prestigious of the early season tournaments in the Bahamas.
I agree.
Not the bad boy mowers Battle for Atlantis.
No,
Although, hey, wait, in 2023, that was an elite tournament.
That was. In 2023, the Battle for Atlantis
lost its luster.
It meant something. It meant something. Now the Baha Mar Championship that who won it? Oh, Tennessee won it, dominating Baylor in the final.
Who won it?
I've always held that one in higher regard.
Sounds like my football coach. What are we, 10-0?
Not bad.
10-1 now.
Not bad. Yeah, no kidding. UConn was in the Maui Invitational, though. I do believe. I don't think that I have the emotional capacity to watch an Indiana basketball game while we're on live radio. We haven't done this in a long, long time. Slay was here last time to just relish in how little I enjoyed this experience. And they are playing a very close game right now. It just started with Louisville, but I'm not going to enjoy this, which means the audience is going to very much enjoy this.
Tennessee handled Louisville very well.
That's true. The Vols throttled Louisville at their place. So what's Indiana going to do in a neutral site?
615-737-1045 for the opportunity to win some Deftones tickets. Tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is. Let's start with Chris.
The dumbest thing in sports this week has got to be Matt Eberflus still being a head coach in the NFL. Also, Vanderbilt losing to LSU. But, hey, we can beat Alabama. I'll sit back and listen. Appreciate it, guys.
Oh, okay. 2. Which would you like to take as his submission? Just the fact that Matt Eberflus continues to exist as an NFL head coach, or Vandy in a letdown spot, according to Chris, because they beat Alabama, who got throttled this weekend at Oklahoma, but could not beat LSU, though they did keep it to a one-score game.
Yeah, the Vandy one's not a very strong submission to me. Winning's tough. Winning in Death Valley at night is tough, regardless of the type of LSU team you're playing. And just
I love that Vandy has your expectations there, though. Delighted.
Sure.
Yeah, you scared him off.
Oh, he dropped off. Yeah. It's all right.
You ran him off.
But come on, man. Winning's hard. Just because you beat Bama does not mean that, that you just are guaranteed wins in Death Valley in the SEC.
That sounds like somebody who just became a Vanderbilt fan like the other day and be like, yeah, we should beat
understand.
The history of the program at Vanderbilt.
Kyle has the dumbest thing in sports this week. Hey, Kyle.
All right, afternoon, guys. I guess as a Titans fan, I'm going to have to say our offensive line play. 7 sacks in the first half and 1 in the second. That's just atrocious. I know, you could probably say it every week, but I don't know. This week was extra bad with the sacks.
The offensive line play being the dumbest thing in sports this week, where NPF had a better week, where Skoronski played good football. J.C. Latham got, and they're playing with a backup center right now. I almost think, Kyle, that I understand your perspective, but that almost feels to me like there is too much blame being attributed to the offensive line when the quarterback is regularly, by his own admission, saying, yeah, I'm taking too many sacks. The coach is saying, yeah, he's taking too many sacks. When the offensive line, honestly, I thought Will Levis had adequate protection more often than not in this particular game, even though Latham did definitely get got a couple of times.
Titans have, by the way, designated cornerback Chido Awuzie to return to practice from IR, a move that we expected to happen this week.
Yep. Brian Callahan said on Monday that they were going to get him going, so that will at least open up his practice window, and we'll see at what point that they can get him to return. Let's see what John has for the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, so, yeah, Lucas definitely deserves those Deftones tickets, the college football finalists. Yeah, that's a joke. But, yeah, mine is for Notre Dame Army at Yankee Stadium. I think 2,000 fans got there at 6, didn't get in until 8:30. The game was already 35-0. Yeah, that's really dumb to me.
I didn't see the issues that people had with getting into the stadium. I don't know if there was a specific reason for that. But yes, that would be frustrating. Thank you for the call. Ann is up next. Always a good one. Hey, Ann.
Hi. I live in northern Michigan, so there's not a lot of SEC fans up here, but I was at work on Saturday in a hospital, and I was kind of standing in a way that you couldn't see me if you walk onto the elevator until later. But this guy totally ignored me, had no clue I was there. He's wearing a Vols hat and just rips a big fart in the elevator and he realizes I'm standing next to him.
No.
And so I get to look at him dead in the eyes and I go, "Go Gators," and I walk out of the elevator.
No. And congratulations, you win the tickets.
Oh, man.
I'm holding a pen right now. I would stick a pen in the side of somebody's neck if they did that.
Well, no, you wouldn't, because Robert does that to you almost every day, and you've not laid a finger on his head.
What do you mean? Passes gas in the studio?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Every day.
Now, he's never in here when I'm in here, hardly, other than him lurking under the desk.
That's not true at all.
If anything.
Almost every day.
If anything, he's doing that to you because he starts on your side of the console, then he crawls across the floor, which he's, probably just letting out little bursts of air as he wanders his way across the floor. That's disgusting.
And gets the tickets. But shout out to the Gators and VFL, Cookeville, Tennessee native, Billy Napier, for helping us out this week.
I feel so bad. So bad. Well, she lives in Michigan, so she can't win the tickets. But we appreciate your guys' submission for the dumbest thing in sports this
give
week.
him to Kyle.
As always, yes, Kyle wins by default because Ann lives in Michigan. So congratulations to Kyle. You will be going to the Deftones show. Always tune in for the dumbest thing in sports this week for the opportunity to win some tickets. All right, coming up next, what we can learn from Week 13 in the NFL, given that we will be off the rest of this week, and this will be our only opportunity to preview this upcoming slate. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. Fun weekend of football, not just in the world of college, of course, with rivalry week coming up, but week 13 in the NFL. Week 12, we looked at the schedule and we said, I don't know how compelling that's going to be. And then we got a bunch of upsets. We got a bunch of dramatic results. The Titans upset the Texans, being one of the wonkier games of the weekend. And if you looked at these games pretty closely, or if you saw these games, just the highlights on Red Zone or however you were consuming it, you were probably thoroughly delighted by Week 12 in the NFL. It was a beautiful mess in so many different ways, which is what keeps the NFL compelling, the opportunity for disaster to strike at any given moment, and a 2-win football team to go to a division leader and upset them, or a 2-win football team to host a division leader and upset them, and at least create a little more conversation around the bottom of the barrel in the NFL at that point, which is something we talked about, the disparity at the top of the heap this year, where the best teams in the NFL seem to have thoroughly pulled away from the worst teams in the NFL. But I do feel like we're seeing a bit of a leveling from a couple of different teams, even if the Chiefs aren't losing to the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young just gave them a game. I watched that game start to finish on Monday afternoon, just because Bryce Young was out there making some plays, and it was thoroughly compelling, even though, again, it was the Chiefs needing to drag an opponent down in the mud, and then Patrick Mahomes, scrambling for 30 yards at the end of a game to seal a victory and escape and preserve their 10-1 record at that point, or to advance to 10-1. That was a compelling game between two teams that you would think there's a mountain of difference between. And there really wasn't on Sunday.
Chiefs get the Raiders on Friday. It's the Black Friday game on Amazon Prime. It does feel like the best games of the weekend are on Sunday, right? The holiday games don't look very appealing.
You can toss Bears-Lions in the trash, even though Caleb Williams playing better.
He is.
Caleb Williams playing slightly better.
They played the Vikings down to the wire, took that game to overtime, recovered an onside kick.
Unless you're that one guy who just wants to see Matt Eberflus fired here today and now.
And they're going to be in Detroit, so they got to go on the road to the team with the longest active winning streak in the NFL.
The Giants-Cowboys, you can actually throw in the trash.
Oh, my goodness.
Maybe not even Tommy DeVito is going to be playing in this game.
Adam Schefter reporting that Tommy DeVito is not flying to Dallas with the Giants, and he did not practice today. He's dealing with the shoulder injury. But they are saying that he could end up, he's questionable, so he could just arrive in Dallas later, but he is not traveling with the team. And that would mean Drew Lock come on down to start at quarterback for the Cowboys against Cooper Rush. Lock start for the Giants against Cooper Rush and the Cowboys.
You can sell me on the surging Dolphins going to Green Bay, because that's, I know Tua's talking about disproving narratives. Mm-hmm. He's looking forward to disproving narratives, the idea of the Dolphins, not just Tua, honestly, but the Dolphins offense, when it plays in cold weather games, seems to spin out. It's almost like, it's literally like putting a person from South Beach in the middle of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and looking at how they flounder about. That's what you associate with this. And that environmental advantage is a huge thing for Green Bay, because the weather is going to be sloppy.
Really? Snowy?
No, sleety almost.
That's
which
worse.
Is not an ideal situation. Does not give you the aesthetics of what was that Thursday night football game between the Browns and the Steelers. It's just going to be kind of gross.
Ugh. Nothing worse than wet cold until it becomes snow. When it becomes snow, like multiple inches of snow, then it looks fun. But when it's just cold, wet rain, like frozen rain, that looks like misery. Just absolute misery.
So there's a couple of games that I want to highlight here. The Chargers and the Falcons is not a game necessarily that people would probably have highlighted at the start of the year, but it's become a much more compelling matchup. Falcons barely clinging to the lead in that division. Chargers suffering a loss to the Baltimore Ravens, but still 7 wins on the season. I think the Bengals can give the Steelers a game.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about how well Joe Burrow and that offense is operating right now. Joe Burrow leads the league, or tied for the league lead in touchdown passes with 27. He ranks 3rd in pass yards. Jamar Chase leads the NFL in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, and they're 4-7.
It's crazy.
Their numbers in those losses are astronomical.
The Ravens games alone for the two of them have been ridiculous, and they've lost them both.
Yeah.
So let's let's talk first and foremost about division races, where things that we can actually learn in the NFL in Week 13. The NFC West is a delightful mess, and it usually is, but this year feels about as even keel as it's ever felt. So you've got, and it's probably going to go down to the wire, I think, at this point. You got the Niners, who are the defending NFC champions, but they're in last place, and they've lost to each of the other teams at this point, but they're only a game behind Arizona and Seattle, who are currently tied for the division lead. These teams this weekend, looking at the schedule, are going to play, let's see, the Seahawks go to the Jets, which fair to expect that they might be able to get a win, even though Aaron Rodgers is saying he's perfectly happy to play football in New York and everything is fine. Don't look at this direction. Everything is fine. I promise. Please believe me. You have the Rams traveling to the Saints, who are 4-7, which is not good, but they are at least acquitting themselves or trying to acquit themselves. And then
they're undefeated under interim coach Darren Rizzi.
The Niners, that game at Buffalo does not bode well for them. Josh Allen, they're riding a 7-game win streak at this point, and they're doing it because they're just bigger and badder and better than you in a lot of different ways. The Niners are reeling, man. They're 5-6. I know they're not dead. I know that you can't discount them because they've got too many talented players. I don't know if George Kittle is going to be available for this game, which would also be a part of the puzzle that they've been missing here. They've dealt with a variety of injuries, including to Purdy, all year long. But the Cardinals-Vikings game is arguably the second most compelling game on the board behind Eagles and Ravens, which is, of course, going to highlight the two NFL leading rushers right now, two of these teams who are vying at the top of their conferences, or at least trying to vie at the top of their conferences, with the Eagles being in their division lead and the Ravens having one more loss than the Pittsburgh Steelers do right now atop the AFC North.
I think Brock Purdy is trending towards playing this weekend. But did Brock Purdy make himself some money with how bad the Niners offense looked without him?
Oh, yeah.
Right? That narrative of, you could plug any competent quarterback.
They're going to pay Brock Purdy. If all these other middling, average tier quarterbacks got paid this offseason to varying degrees, and Tua, I think, deserved the contract. Lawrence is probably the biggest question mark. I mean, is the biggest question mark out of the most recent group of people that got paid. But there's no question to me that Brock Purdy is going to be a $55 to $60 million player by the time it is time to extend his contract, and it's growing nearer and nearer at this point. Most compelling divisional races beyond the NFC West, what would you say?
Most compelling divisional race beyond the NFC West, it's hard not to say the AFC North between Steelers and Ravens in that race right now, and how competitive those games are constantly. I know things are probably going to be tight down the stretch in I don't know. I mean, the NFC South, Bucks and Falcons are sort of neck and neck, but no, it's hard not for me to say the AFC North, the most rivalry-ridden division in the NFL, and some pivotal games happening there this weekend. I mean, Ravens-Eagles is the headliner of the weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
The 3:25 kickoff on Sunday, the top two rushing attacks, top two NFL rushing leaders in Saquon and Derrick Henry on Sunday. So the implications of that game in relation to the Steelers-Bengals game, for me, it's the AFC North. But the top of the NFC North also fascinating as well.
I'm going to go Homer, and I'm going to say I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious to see how this AFC South thing plays out.
Okay, that's fine to say you're genuinely curious, but we're talking about the most compelling divisional races in the NFL. So let's put that conversation to the side. But yes, I also am curious. And if you're a Titans fan,
would you not think it compelling if C.J. Stroud, a player who we all assumed was going to be the next great quarterback who's coming off? I mean, if Will Levis had the game that C.J. Stroud has, and I know that's it's a hypothetical, so there's no way to actually have that discussion. But say he had the 2-interception, 2-touchdown game that C.J. Stroud had, and some of the picks, or especially the pick that he threw to Jarvis Brown.
Yeah, it was bad.
We are having a very different Will Levis conversation this week. They are pretty flawed. They were thought to be one of these teams up at the top of the list with the Chiefs, with the Ravens, with the Bills. If they crater, you mean to tell me that's not compelling? And I don't know that they'll crater.
If they crater, right. That's the thing. Like, I'm not saying it can't be compelling.
Colts are 2 games back.
But it's not, right. And the Texans go to Jacksonville this weekend. So talk to me if Houston loses to Jacksonville.
That would actually be a part of the crater.
Right. Because I understand you play until it's over, right? Which is why it's so easy to rebuke the, they're not going to make the playoffs. We don't need to be winning games. No, they do, because it's their job to try to win games. And you play until the bell rings. But one of the biggest reasons why the Jags started, 3-7, whatever it was, 2 years ago, and ended up winning the division is because the Titans, 2-6, something in that neighborhood. Titans lost 7 games in a row to hand that, and it still came down to the head-to-head in the regular season finale.
Buddy, you don't have to tell me. I was there for all 7 losses.
So that's what would have to happen for this division truly to come down to the wire. And if the Texans beat the Jags and get to 8-5 going into Week 14, it would be hard to envision a legit race for the AFC South shaping up. Though the Colts have a winnable game in New England and a chance to get to 6-7.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to chime in. What is the most compelling divisional race in the NFL right now as we get ready to hit this stretch run? It's going to be a fascinating. I really think that we have talked ourselves into so many things, or knowing so many things definitively a little past the halfway point, that there's the potential for a lot of this stuff, a lot of the narratives that have already been created to be upended beyond like the obvious, right? We know the Chiefs are going to be in it at the end. We know the Lions are going to be in it at the end. Beyond that, I don't know that I could definitively tell you anything about how this, because I could totally make a case for the Steelers to lose to the Bengals this weekend. That causes all kinds of problems in that divisional race in particular. Quick reminder, a moment's peace. You can join 104.5 The Zone and 3HL as they broadcast live at a moment's peace salon and day spa. Monday, December the 2nd from 3 to 6 p.m. You can stop by to achieve hero status and get that unique, thoughtful gift for your loved one this holiday season. To learn more, visit 1045thezone.com today. Let's go to Dr. Detroit, who wants to chime in. What's up, Doc?
So if I go to get a massage in the whole 9 yards, do I just wear a toga? Is that more comfortable?
I suppose that's at your discretion, but I would probably read some guidelines before you show up, Doc.
Okay, definitely call in advance for wardrobe, any failure or anything. Yeah, we definitely don't want that. We know what happened to Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
But anywho, I'm heading to the Motor City, folks. I'm going to tell you something I never would have thought of until it just came to my mind, but Friday's going to be an off day. Well, Red Wings got a 2 o'clock matinee game. They got a game tonight I'm going to. But I'm going to Roger Penske's headquarters Friday. I cannot be more psyched. I mean, I don't know why I never thought of it before, but I've done everything else when I go to Detroit, but never thought about going to Penske Enterprise, where my team Penske drivers race for, so I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of the Lions, I mean, the question I got for you, because I heard some part of your show yesterday, what is Aaron Rodgers thinking at this time, at this moment, with all the changes and all the whiplash and just the debacle? I mean, I don't even know what his contract is. How long did he sign for?
I appreciate the call, Doc. Good to hear from you, and enjoy your trip to the Motor City, as you said. Are the Lions hosting this weekend?
Yeah.
Lions are hosting this weekend.
Yeah,
that would be a compelling
the Bears.
game. Aaron Rodgers' contract, I can look that up on Spot Track very quickly. I'm not sure what that has to do with the Lions, other than he is no longer in the NFC North, and the NFC North is honestly a better division since he left. But he signed a 3-year, $112.5 million contract with the Jets, $75 million guaranteed. In 2024, he is earning a base salary of $3.1 million and a signing bonus of $35. That contract runs technically through 2026 because they have some void years that are a part of that. It will be, through 2025. He has a void year in 2026 where he will be an unrestricted free agent. So what Aaron Rodgers is thinking, I have no idea what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. I don't know that anybody knows what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. I think he enjoys the fact that he's just being discussed. If the Jets are irrelevant, I think Rodgers likes being relevant. That's always been kind of the case for him.
Yeah. Nobody has a bye week this week. Every NFL team is in action. So tons of games, and unfortunately the Thanksgiving slate doesn't seem like it's going to deliver. Do we usually get good games on Thanksgiving, though? I feel like it's typically some duds, and we might get one good one.
What's the last great Thanksgiving game that you've watched? Memorable ones that come to mind. I don't know. My thing with Thanksgiving football is I feel like there's so many other things to distract me from what's going on. Like there is football on in the background, but I'm in a family that, well, one, I'm driving up and back, so I don't know how much they won't watch any football at all unless I put it on the television. And two, I think that if I use some of the 3 hours that I'm going to spend in Evansville, Indiana on Thursday after Titans practice to watch football, my mom might throw something at me.
Good thing is Giants Cowboys is perfect background noise. Like it is.
It's perfect
actually
napping
great.
noise.
Yeah, it's great to have
That's
a
what you need.
3:30 Thanksgiving game that is not a good game because there's a lot going on, right? Some folks do Thanksgiving lunch and then maybe they're taking their post-Thanksgiving meal nap. Some folks are preparing Thanksgiving dinner. Maybe they're eating at right about 5 o'clock, having an early-ish dinner. And so it's great to have a very not compelling football game just kind of on in the background. So maybe you can settle in for Dolphins-Packers, which seems like the best shot at a good game on Thursday.
You know what? With the Colts, I know Anthony Richardson's coming off a bit of a dud. Bucks are at the Panthers this weekend, so Bryce Young, we'll see if he can continue to try and build upon this. I'm so interested to see what happens to these 4 players in particular. Just based off watching Stroud and Levis head-to-head last weekend, Richardson's obviously in the division. They're going to see him again, as provided that he's healthy, and I have no idea what's going to become of Bryce Young because everybody assumed that his career was done in Carolina, and I just don't know that that's the case. There's a lot of compelling things to learn about these different teams, some of which obviously, including the Texans again and the Colts again, are still ahead on the Titans schedule. The next home game is the Jags, by the way. If the Texans go to Jacksonville and lose, I mean, that is the most unthinkable result at this point, right? Of any upset that could potentially happen. Maybe the Raiders over the Chiefs. Is that the same kind of magnitude? Obviously, the Chiefs are a 10-win football team. If the Raiders, who are one of the NFL's worst teams right now, and just put Gardner Minshew on injured reserve, if they were to upset the Chiefs, that would be the biggest upset of the NFL weekend. But if the Jags beat the Texans, that would be second.
Yeah, I think so. I think I agree. The Jags look lifeless. Have
you watched any Doug Peterson press conferences or seen any
it's
of the
tough.
clips of them? I love the line of questioning because it's so outrageous to an extent. There are reporters asking him because, of course, famously, Shad Khan, the owner, got in front of people before their season began and said this was the best Jags team ever assembled. And there's a reporter asking Doug Peterson in the press conference, did you tell Shad that this was the best Jags team ever assembled? And he said, no. No, I did not. And the reporter follows up with, well, who told him that? He goes, I don't know. Doug Peterson seems miserable, one, totally bewildered, two, and I feel bad because I'm just watching somebody's professional career unwind at this point, or at least this phase of their professional career. But man, it's tough. It's tough right now in the AFC.
Didn't
South.
Shad say something to that effect when they hired Urban about knowing we got it right this time?
Oh, no. Really? I mean, there's an example of that here locally, but, that might be on the uptick. Herb's just a particularly bad example. Coming up next, we are going to do a little Friday Fire on a Wednesday because, of course, this is our last show of the week. What was your moment of positivity this week? Or we could just do it simply. What are you thankful for? 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll give you ours coming up next.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Most certainly is, except it's not Friday. It's a Wednesday, but a Wednesday that is definitely a Friday because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. 615-737-1045. What is your moment of positivity this week? What is your Friday fire? It is most certainly not Indiana trailing by 10 in the first half against Louisville. The number 14 team in the country in college basketball is embarrassing and cannot shoot from three, and it makes me furious, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to shine a light. Here to have a moment of positivity. Damn basketball team. Jelly Roll. The concert, I mean, I'm telling you, Jackson asked me if it's the best concert I've ever been to. I had to think about that. It's definitely close. I will put slightly ahead of it Bruce Springsteen at Wrigley Field in a slight rain for 4 straight hours, just jamming. It was a party, an absolute party. But this is what took place at Bridgestone Arena last night. Jelly Roll is not only an incredible human being, not only an inspirational story, not only a shining light in the community. This dude busted his ass on this show last night. He came out there in an Antioch High School football jacket with his Titans hat. He had another Titans Preds jacket on later on in the show. Sold out Bridgestone Arena. It was a 58-show, 13-week tour that he's been on. They didn't have Nashville on the schedule. Nashville, of course. Antioch, of course, is where Jelly Roll, Jason DeFord, is from. And he busted his ass to make sure that he could put on arguably the best show of the year in Nashville. Last night was at Bridgestone for Jelly Roll. He had Keith Urban, Snoop Dogg. He had Ernest and Morgan Wallen out there with him. So many other various artists who have contributed to songs, so many other cool songwriters, so many moments, so many just theatrical design type things for the production of the show that I was blown away by. It was so cool. It was so cool to get to witness that, to see him get to shine in front of his hometown crowd, to see the way that people embrace him. That's the first arena show that I've seen him do. I saw him jump in on a Ryman show for Ernest at some point in the last year, which is obviously a much, much different venue. But the scale of that, I had no idea how kick-ass a performer he was. I've seen him do the CMAs and things like that before, but his show is incredible. And I know he's getting ready to do a stadium tour with Post Malone, which is another incredible accomplishment for him. So congratulations to Jelly, not just the concert, not just the amount of people, the star power that he brought out on stage with him, also getting to take that concert in with Jim Wyatt, which was delightful.
That's awesome.
It was a good time.
That's great.
Jimmy and his wife.
Just a couple local legends in there at Bridgestone Arena, Jelly Roll and Jim Wyatt.
One Hall of Famer, the other one aspiring to be.
Yeah, great stuff. Jelly, getting Snoop Dogg out there. I mean, that's insane.
They have a song together.
That's awesome. My Friday Fire is Cal quarterback Fernando Mendoza. In his post-game interview after leading his Cal Golden Bears to a comeback victory over rival Stanford to achieve bowl eligibility, Cal was down 11 at the start of the fourth quarter, and this was a very emotional Fernando Mendoza speaking post-game.
Down 21-10 at the start of the fourth quarter. What did it take to come back?
Hey, first of all, I want to give all the glory to God. That was an amazing comeback. It's a testament how tough we are as a team. I love my boys. It's amazing. I'm so proud of everyone's team. We're 6-6. We're bold bound, and we retain the axe. Go Bears forever. Let's go.
You are so emotional right now, Fernando, in this moment. What's bringing out these emotions for you?
We worked so hard. We worked so hard for this. I apologize for getting emotional, but it's so hard. As an offense, we've done everything that we possibly could have throughout the summer. To being down, having a close game. This has to be the most special moment in my life today.
Look around at these fans in this moment. What will you remember most from this victory today?
I remember going 98 yards with my boys. 98 yards. At that moment, we told them, this is why we did the camping trip. This is why we did every Saturday walkthrough. This is why we stayed late until 9 p.m. watching film together. And so that meant so much to me to go 98 yards against a defense that's been playing great. And we ended up scoring in the clutch.
98 yards with my boys.
11-play, 98-yard drive that got capped off by a touchdown with them trailing 21-16, if I'm not mistaken. That's crazy.
The dude sounds like he just won the Super Bowl, right? He sounds like he's about to say, I'm going to Disney. So as we sort through this wild college football season, and all we talk about is who's out and who's in, and, you know, the season's a disappointment, a failure if you don't get into the playoff, there are teams like Cal that are just fighting for bowl eligibility with players like Fernando Mendoza, where everything hinges on beating a rival to get that 6th win. And that is college football. That is beautiful. So that's my Friday Fire.
Jackson?
I'm going with Scottie Pippen Jr. The Grizzlies traveled to Chicago this past weekend. He's playing in the United Center where his dad played, and he went off. 26 points, 8 assists, 85% from the field. The last player to record 25 points, 8 assists, and at least 80% field goal percentage at the United Center, Scottie Pippen in 1995.
Sick. Wow. That's
That
a
is
winner.
sick. Yeah, that's my
good
Friday
one.
Fire.
Look at you with the contribution today. Progress. 615-737-1045. The number, what's your Friday Fire on this Thanksgiving Eve? Let's go to, on a Wednesday, by the way, it's not Friday, even though it is technically Friday. JB is up first.
Hey, y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I think my Friday Fire is this national treasure we have in our hand, and he goes by the name of Jameis Winston. We don't know how lucky we are with his presence. I mean, his pregame interview, he didn't even answer the question. He just says whatever he wants, he says, and that's my Friday Fire.
The mic'd up for sound of Jameis in the snow.
That's great. It's great.
Jackson, I don't know if it's curse word free. I don't know how long it is curse word free or it is not curse word free.
We'll find out.
Okay. Well, let's do some digging on that because I think that would be a delightful cap to this. Just him yelling, just snap the damn ball.
Him doing the hard count, just trying to get in. And then at the end, he goes, someone jump offside. Damn.
Oh, my goodness. He is just a delight. I'm jealous of the Browns because if you're going to have 3 wins, at least you have Jameis Winston and you're having a great time. Anything after the Deshaun experience has to feel good. Yes? Chris is up next. Hey, Chris.
Hey, man. So I called in earlier. Call dropped, obviously. So I'm a frequent listener. We'll go to Friday Fire. I would say the Friday Fire would be Vanderbilt actually going to a bowl game since James Franklin era.
Yeah. I mean, Vandy continuing to try and do the improbable. If they are able to knock off Tennessee, that would be a huge feather in their cap.
Yes, Lucas, be prepared. It's going to happen.
Well, I appreciate the confidence, Chris. Not since James Franklin era. They made a few bowl games. They made a couple under Derek Mason. But no, I see what you're saying. It is.
I was born in '94, and you said I sounded like a recently introduced Vanderbilt fan. No, sir. I'm born and raised here in Nashville.
Sure. No, I got you.
As well.
No, that was me. I thought it was funny.
It is awesome. What Clark Lee has done there this year, I don't think it could be understated how good of a job he's done in kind of pivoting from his initial approach, which quickly went out the window because it coincided with the wave of transfer portal, NIL, college football completely changing. And Clark Lee has adjusted, and he has that team playing with a belief. I mean, they believe that they are going to win every game they play in. And so he has done an incredible job. Tennessee's not going to get out of West End easily at all.
I love the idea of that being a Vanderbilt fan smack talk and you responding with, well, I appreciate the confidence.
Love that for you.
Is that the most disrespectful way that you can dismiss somebody trying to engage in some level of smack talk with you? It's like he took a leather glove off his hand and tried to slap you with it. And you said, I appreciate the confidence, bud.
Look, I like this game being a rivalry. I like it. I hate when this game is lifeless. In the last week, it's rivalry week. All of these iconic rivalry games that happen across college football Michigan, Ohio State's going on. The Iron Bowl's going on. I know the Egg Bowl, it loses a little of its luster this year because Miss State is so bad, but that always gets weird. I want Tennessee Vandy to have juice. It's the in-state rivalry. I want it to have something, so I appreciate that it has that this year.
615-737-1045, the number if you want to join the conversation. Chris will be the last Friday Fire submission on this Wednesday. Hey, Chris.
The call dropped again. I was just calling back, Buck. Sorry.
Oh, it's the same
I was
Chris.
the one with the Vanderbilt. Yeah.
A lot of people named Chris in this world, but you couldn't blame me for that.
Go to break.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. College football playoff rankings came out Tuesday. The Vols rose up 3 spots to number 8, 1 spot behind Georgia at 7, and ahead of SMU, who jumped up to number 9. Indiana slipped down to 10 after the Saturday loss at Ohio State. In NFL news, the Minnesota Vikings are signing free agent quarterback Daniel Jones. According to Jordan Schultz, Jones was released by the Giants just on Friday. Titans are on the practice field today, preparing for the trip to Landover, Maryland to face the Commanders. They did open cornerback Chidobe Awuzie's return to practice window off of injured reserve. Brian Callahan is meeting with the media as we speak. We'll hear from him in just a few moments. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Titans head coach Brian Callahan is at the podium. We go now live to St. Thomas Sports Park.
And doing the little things right, the small things right, kind of over time. And he's done a really good job over the last couple of weeks of doing that. Less hunting of magic plays and big plays and more taking it as it comes, sort of playing each play as it presents itself. And when you get a chance to be aggressive, be aggressive. When there's a chance to make a play with your feet, make a play with your feet. Certainly things we still got to improve. We're not a finished product there by any stretch, but a lot of things that I've been really pleased with in terms of his approach. A lot less of trying really hard to make something happen as opposed to letting the game come to you and playing in a little bit more relaxed manner, I think has really helped him. You could probably ask him a little more detail about how he's approached it, but I've just sensed a calmer presence. I've sensed more focus and more focus on the smaller things as opposed to trying to do all of it all at once. And I think that's helped him.
Personality. Mm-hmm. He's been, it's my interpretation, more low key with us. After the game Sunday, it almost felt like you lost. From what you know of him and the way he's carrying himself, do you think he's maybe making a concerted effort to kind of really low key thing?
I don't know. I think that there's definitely a calming presence to him now. Hard to say what that would be. I guess probably more for him to answer than for me. I just know the way he's approached the job and how he's gone about his weekly process. I think he's refined it. I think he's gotten better at it. I think he's learned what's productive and what isn't when it comes to preparing for a game. How much time to spend doing it, and then there's the moment of when you get to go play football, go play and don't think about it too much and just let the plays come to you and play what you see. And I think that's helped him quite a bit, that perspective. And I've been pleased with what he's done.
You said he hasn't been seeking magic plays, mm-hmm. and I think unquestionably more magic plays have been happening.
Funny how that works.
Ever, right? Is that, I guess, validating to Will to sort of like show that, hey, this can work? And, how have you approached instilling that thought process in him?
Yeah, there's a time and a place to be aggressive at quarterback, and we're going to call plays that have aggressive options. And there's certain plays that we feel really good about that aggressive option will be the one that gets thrown. But I'm very mindful and careful about putting Will in position where it's like, this is the throw. It's the throw if it's there. And he does a really good job now of deciphering that. And he's hit some really big ones, some really aggressive throws, some downfield throws that have presented themselves. And he's been ready to throw them. And then there's been a handful of plays that aren't quite as exciting that you guys probably don't talk about as much that he's not thrown that ball that's down the field, and we've checked it down or taken the shorter throw, and those things all work in conjunction together. I think it's just like anything. The more you sort of aim and grip the wheel tight and try to do something, usually you don't do it very well. And I think when you just play the play how it's supposed to be played, and you just react to what you see, there's lots of options on every play for him, and I think he's done a good job of finding those.
In terms of his managing the game and that being better, like you alluded to, do you think that's kind of what's improved his confidence over the last 3 or 4 weeks?
I think that just in general, his confidence has improved quite a bit, and it's from a lot of those things. It's from doing the small things right. It's from success in practice. It's from hitting the big plays when we've needed them. And then there's still things to improve. I think if he keeps finding ways to understand that the sack part, his play in the sack portion of the game, if we can improve that, just how much better we can be, how much more efficient we can be, especially on early downs. There's things in the pocket that we work with him on kind of every week, and I think as those things continue to improve, I think his confidence is only going to grow, and I'm excited about that.
The speed of the game is concerned, like how do you feel he's coming along as far as balancing that? Okay, take the deep shot, check it down, and watch all that. Because before it was kind of like there was a buffering thing going on. And it was
no, I think he's playing fast right now, and I think that's confidence in the players around him. I think that's confidence in the scheme. It's understanding what the intent of the plays are, and when and where to hold on to it, and when and where to get rid of it. Those things have been improved, I think, dramatically over the last month for him, and I think that's good to see. You see the comfort. Guys are where they're supposed to be, and he's finding them with the ball. And the more you do that, the better off your offense is going to be. The more efficient you'll be, and the more you move the ball down the field. And we've done a pretty good job of that. And I think as he continues to get more comfortable and understands more as the scheme becomes more natural to him, I think it's I think he can only play better.
Guys are where they're supposed to be, and he's finding them. In the past, was it guys weren't there, or
no.
He wasn't finding them? Or
no, I think it's more. What I mean by that, I guess, is more that the guys that are playing now understand the timing of some of the routes, the spacing, where they're supposed to fit, where the ball is supposed to be, and when it's supposed to be there. Those things have improved a lot over the course of the season, and even just for Ridley, for example, just the amount of places he's moved around, the different styles of routes he's run. He's been put in a lot of different spots, and I think you see him much more comfortable with what we're asking and how we're asking him to do it, and you just see the connection grow amongst the passing game sort of every week, and that's what we're after, and I think that's been, again, the improvement there has been noticeable.
Denard's background as a secondary guy has been maybe especially helpful this year with all the injuries, absences that you guys have had in the secondary.
Yeah, it's critical. That was one of the things that I was drawn to Denard, was just his expertise in the back end, in the passing game, because I know that, look, the best teams in this league throw the football and they throw it well, and you got to find a way to stop that. And he's got a great feel for it. He understands offensive football. He's got a great feel for concepts and what teams are trying to attack, how they're trying to attack the defense, and he's got a lot of answers. And that's, just like we want answers on offense for what defenses are seeing, the defenses, they want answers as well. And I think Denard's got a great toolbox of answers, a toolbox of coverages, how he wants to play against every particular scheme. Those things have been invaluable with the amount of backup players that we've had playing and guys that have kind of been forced into roles that weren't anticipated to start the season. But a huge part of that success in the back end is from Denard, his knowledge, his expertise, and obviously Steve Jackson and Chris Harris are involved in that process as well. And I think they've done just an absolutely fantastic job of getting those guys and putting them in position to have success.
The most, I guess, about Jaden Daniels as a rookie, and maybe what are some of the other challenges you face against them?
Yeah, his poise. He's so poised in the pocket. He doesn't get rattled. He moves around well. He finds lanes. He knows when and where to run, and he's also very, very quick with the draw in terms of getting the ball out of his hand and knowing where to go with it. Knows when to run, knows how to get out of bounds and get down, doesn't take a lot of hits, and he runs around quite a bit. He's sort of the driver of their run game and their pass game. They do a nice job with their tempo. They do a nice job putting guys in positions and try to keep the defense on their heels. I got a lot of respect for Cliff and everything he's done offensively over his career. So he's, you see his growth as well, Jaden, in terms of understanding and knowing and the timing that he plays with. He's really fun to watch as a fan of quarterbacks. I like watching him. I like watching what they do and how they do it. But he's definitely his poise for a young player is probably what stands out the most to me.
Do you see the win over Houston maybe being a foundational building block, not just for the next few weeks, but going forward for some of the younger players?
Yeah, I think success, as I've sort of spelled out before, just in terms of I know there's a lot of good things happening. We haven't had a lot of wins to show for it. And so to have success and to taste what that tastes like and to feel what that feels like, to win a big game on the road, we hadn't had a chance to really have a signature win, if you will, something that sort of propelled us into the next phase, and certainly has the ability to do that. But the young players to feel what it feels like, to be able to go out and play that way and in a back and forth game, and we definitely didn't play our best either. I mean, we had moments in all three phases that we had to overcome, and that's what good teams do. And hopefully we've found ourselves on a pretty steady upward trajectory, and against a bunch of teams here with 6 weeks to play. See if we can't build on that and win a few more along the way.
Progress on offense. How much more encouraging is it that it comes against some top defenses? And how excited do you get as a play caller that you now have less formidable defensive opponents coming up?
Yeah, I don't look at it that way. Unfortunately, I know you guys do. I don't. We got good defenses every week. Everybody's got players. Everybody gets paid. There's good coaches everywhere. So I don't necessarily look at it like that. I do know we've played some really stout, difficult schemes over the last handful of weeks with really good players. And, I think we've done a lot of positive things. Obviously, I haven't won enough of those games, but the growth of the offense versus some difficult schemes and some good players has been positive. And I think that's where I take some of my positivity and optimism from, is that we have played good stretches of football against good defenses, and that's a good thing for us in our offensive progression, and we're going to have to continue to do that. Again, still 6 weeks to play, a lot of things out there to play for still, and we got to find a way to win some more games.
Is it also to have a disciplined pass rush this week, especially with Jaden Daniels and how dynamic he could be running?
That's a critical part. He's got a little bit of, and I'm not comparing him. Don't let me compare. I'm not comparing, but he's got a little bit of Lamar in him in terms of like his ability to find lanes, find places to go, and then never takes a big hit. He's always sliding through a lane, and you have to be very disciplined in your rush, and you have to contain him in the pocket. And he creates a lot of plays outside of the structure. And so for us to maintain a rush discipline in our rush lanes and be able, when we get hands on him, to get him down. That's a huge part of winning the game against these guys is making sure that you don't let him go run all over the field.
You mentioned in the past that sometimes even if a guy's played a lot of football, you don't know him well until you've coached him, seen him play. What are some of the things you've seen from Tony in these first 12 weeks that maybe you didn't know when you signed him, or that have revealed themselves to you?
Yeah, Tony's, man. I probably didn't realize that he was up to the task for some of the load that he's carried. He's not a huge back. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but he runs like a big man. If that's the best way that I can put it. Just to feel that on a weekly basis, just how physical and how tough he is, and his ability to sort of take a 20-plus carry game and turn it into something really positive. I knew he was capable of doing, sort of all the things running backs have to do at a high level with the protection and the pass game. But I think his physicality, his toughness, and his production in a run game is something that you don't really feel until you're on the field with him. And he's been a huge asset for the offense, and I think he's second in the league or second in the AFC in rushing. So he's been incredibly productive, and I'm really, really happy we have him.
Talked a lot about.
Does it sneak into your thinking at all, now that you're seeing some of these things come to fruition, that stuff took us too long to get Calvin going, took us too long to throw to Nick, took too long for Simmons and Sweat to get going, took too long for X, Y, Z?
I mean, yeah, you certainly can look at it right now and at where our record's at and where we're at in the season, with some games that, particularly early on in the year that we had opportunities to win. And you get a couple more of those wins, and we're in a much different spot than we are currently. And yeah, there's some things that I wish it happened at a faster rate, but that's just the way it's gone. And we're going to have to continue to get better. We still have a lot of football left to play, a lot of things left to build on and improve on. But yeah, I certainly would have wished we were hotter earlier, and that's just sort of how it goes sometimes. But I'm encouraged about where we are now and where we're headed, and I think that to me is at this point the most important part. And again, we're not dead yet, so we got to keep fighting and keep looking for opportunities to win games.
These numbers take a dramatic jump, I guess, ever since D-Hop got traded.
Who is that?
Ridley's numbers have kind of taken a dramatic jump. Is it as simple as one guy goes and another guy gets more targets, or is there Or is there more to it than that, do you think?
No, I think there's certainly is. There's an effect. There's always a cause and effect. When you get a guy like that leaves the building and who's been super productive over his entire career, and you're trying to find ways to get both of them targets and what do they do well. And I think I've got a much better feel now for Rid and what he does really well and how to use him, what the route tree looks like for him. And I think he's a lot more comfortable with all the things we're asking of him too. So I don't know that they're necessarily related. It's more so I think a function of time on task and reps invested. But I do think that there's that part of it is showing up when you're focused on making sure you got all the things that he needs to get the ball. And it is challenging to do that with multiple players. It is as a first time play caller, those things have challenges, and I've learned and grown through a lot of that stuff too, and that's positive for me as well. But excited about what Rid's done, and I think he's got a chance to finish the season off really on a really high note.
Where do you feel like you have improved the most from week 1 to week 12 as a head coach and a play caller?
Yeah, there's a lot to that question. I would say just very, very generally, I think knowing exactly what I want to do, calling plays, how we want to attack a team, much more clarity every week for me, how I want to use the players we have, what positions I want to put them in. The rhythm of calling the game has gotten really, really easy for me, and that from where it started to where it is now. Those things have all I feel really good about walking out there calling games now. I have a lot more confidence in the coaches and the players, in myself, as the season's gone along. So my confidence has grown too, and I think that that's okay to admit. Those are things that as you work through and you keep growing, you get better at it. And I think I've gotten a lot better at it over the course of the season so far. So as a head coach, I mean that's a long question. There's a lot there, but I've just tried to be as consistent as possible through all the ups and downs of a season, and tried to be there for the players as best I can, try to coach them hard, and hopefully get better at that part of it as we go too. But there's probably a book I could answer that question with if you gave me the time. I don't want to waste anybody's time here today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's Brian Callahan at the podium. There's a lot there. A lot of clearly distinctive differences between him and his predecessor based on the way that he answered a couple of those questions, but we can talk about that. Coming up next, we can also take your phone calls, 615-737-1045. We will also let you hear from Greg Cosell on the schematic progress and tactical progress he is seeing Will Levis make on film. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045, the number if you want to get involved. Brian Callahan, Titans head coach, answering some questions there, a variety of different questions that made Lucas and I giggle just because the nature of the questions would have been, I mean, would Mike Vrabel have picked a reporter up and thrown him out of the press conference for asking him to be reflective in season on how he's improved as a coach? Because that was the first one, and then the second one was asking him about the strength of schedule, how much more difficult or strength of defenses that he's faced in the last couple of weeks and how much easier that's about to get, which is a hilarious thing to ask a football coach because that's exactly the way that media people and fans think about it. And, of course, a coach is going to be like, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to win. I have 3 on the season. Don't you understand, you fools? And he was very diplomatic about that.
I like to think Vrabel had an extensive string of trap doors under each of your chairs that he could press a button at any moment and get rid of you.
No, Mike just had the trash can. Mike had the suggestion box / trash can, which you were welcome to submit your suggestions to his suggestion box, which he would hold up the trash can for your use. But otherwise, there was a lot of different stuff there about Will Levis, the progress that he's making, the different things that they're seeing improvement on, the way that Will Levis comports himself in press settings now, which has been commented on. I've made comments on this. I think PK was the one that asked the question. Callahan said he didn't know of a specific tactical approach that's been taken or changed by the quarterback in the way that he handles his commentary. But I think it's pretty evident to everybody that this person is just trying to maintain the level. Whatever the level is, just try and stay as close to it as humanly possible. The definition of please God, do not get too high, please God, do not get too low is Will Levis.
Yeah.
Because that's been the Will Levis quarterback experience. There are the highest of highs, there's Atlanta, there are the lowest of lows, which is Chicago. And then the last 3 weeks, he's not eliminated that entirely, but he's at least worked to change the narrative around him, even if the vast majority of people around the country saw Will Levis throw a pick six, take 8 sacks, have a disastrous performance from his special teams and still win a game? Question mark?
Not as disastrous as what your Hoosiers are
I don't want to talk about this.
together
Why
right
would
now.
you do this? I'm trying to keep it on topic A. You want to talk about Indiana college basketball right now?
You're just trying to keep this from being a 30-point deficit to Louisville. It's 62-37 right now. Louisville is just
embarrassment.
Cruising. Man,
Embarrassment.
I'm okay
What
with it.
don't you two understand about what my sports life is, why I'm so miserable about this on a regular basis, why the thing that gives me allegedly the most joy in my life is nothing but a 4-month migraine? What don't you two understand?
How rarely are we on the air when we get to see this?
It's only happened twice in the history of the show. And it honestly, I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it so much.
I don't mind Louisville getting on a run here, making that Tennessee win at Louisville look a little bit better.
You don't have to enjoy that so
Get
much.
them up in the rankings a little bit.
I can hear the condescension in your tone. Okay,
but
this is supposed to be the 14th best team in college basketball this year, and they suck.
But seriously, though, Will Levis is still learning how to be an NFL quarterback, and he's doing it alongside Brian Callahan, who clearly is still learning how to be a play-calling NFL head coach. And Callahan was a little bit candid about that, just about the developmental process for him this season.
Look at this person. Look at this person screaming. I don't even know who number 10 is for Indiana, but he is beside himself at how bad they are at shooting.
There is dissension in the ranks, infighting on the Indiana bench. And
that's a culture problem.
Yeah, it feels pretty deep-rooted, the issues.
I wish Kurt Cignetti could coach my basketball team because Mike Woodson doesn't know what to do other than get guys through the portal and then not be able to find anybody as far as shooting
I mean,
goes.
the level of infighting we're seeing from Indiana right now even dwarfs this show and the amount of backstabbing that happens
Where do
between
you think I get
10 to 1. Yeah.
Where do you think I get it?
Mike Woodson, get your team together.
Oh. What do you want to talk about your damn quarterback?
No, it is an interesting, how many of those parallels can you find across the NFL, right? Where there is a not only first-time head coach, first-time play caller that is now a play-calling head coach developing alongside a young quarterback who is also learning to play quarterback in the NFL, right? You saw that with Matt LaFleur.
Well, especially a quarterback that most people don't think is actually good.
Yeah, but, look at all of these these kind of whiz kid offensive play calling coaches. Matt LaFleur, his first head coaching gig, he gets in there with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, right? Sean McVay, Jared Goff had played football, and then obviously he was able to take it to another level with Matt Stafford.
Who was Shanahan's quarterback before they traded for Jimmy G?
He had Alex. No, he did not have Alex Smith.
No.
Who was the Niners quarterback before Jimmy G? Was Shanahan there for the
Shanahan was there for the trade because I remember Carlos Hyde, a running back. They had been on a terrible losing streak. In fact,
was he there for Gabbert?
He might have been there for Gabbert
in the game where the Titans lost to Blaine Gabbert and the Niners.
That might be correct.
I don't know though because I feel like that's pre-Falcons blowing the lead against the Patriots. He was the head coach in San Fran. 2017 was year one for Kyle Shanahan.
I think that's Gabbert. Because that's that West Coast trip that the Titans took where they lost to a bad Cardinals team, they lost to a bad Niners team, and I think they went on that road trip 7-4 and came back 7-7 or something like that.
It was not. Gabbert was in Arizona in 2017.
But they lost to Gabbert in Arizona.
Right.
Okay.
In 2016.
16 was that West Coast trip?
I believe so.
Okay. Nobody seems to know anything.
Yeah, because
excellent work by us.
Either way.
Well, because I believe the Titans needed the win over the 49ers or the Jags, and they lost both. Didn't make the playoffs in 16.
Niners started, so they acquired Jimmy G in Shanahan's first year.
But who was the starting quarterback before they acquired Garoppolo? Because they were bad. I mean, they were down. They were down tremendous. People forget the Chip Kelly, Colin Kaepernick era.
They started 0-9 and then got hot and finished 6-10.
Huh?
Was it Skelton?
John Skelton?
Yes.
What a pull. No, that would have been an Arizona Cardinals quarterback. I know for sure.
He bounced around. He definitely bounced around.
I don't know if did he like make the cycle in the NFC West. He played for every NFC West team.
Point is, Shanahan did not walk into a great stable quarterback situation. But
Hoyer, Beathard, Garoppolo. Why is the chat better at researching this than the show is?
But Shanahan also obviously had play calling experience, right? He had a great resume from what he did in Atlanta, helping Matt Ryan win MVP.
Well, the great resume was definitely in question based on the second half of that football game. But I understand your point.
Yeah, but Zach Taylor, I guess, will be an example of that. You know, kind of working with a rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow. They had their struggles.
Zach Taylor got a year under his belt.
Yeah, he did before Burrow got in there, and Burrow was a phenomenal prospect.
The Brian Callahan situation is, I will grant you, pretty unique, but that still doesn't necessarily excuse them for how bad that they started because they just they literally gave so many opportunities away. And again, tried to give an opportunity away in Houston by nature of their special teams, which they still haven't been able to get a grasp on. And I'm at a loss with what to do with the special teams unit. Like in season, do you just ride it out? Because Cedric Gray is more than welcome to bottle up Dameon Pierce on that kickoff return, right? Jaquan Jackson must field that punt cleanly as opposed to putting it on the ground. And he's put a couple on the ground this year. He's just been able to recover them before he did let that one go. So they are still barely surviving some of these situations. And in a lot of situations, they're still not surviving because they just got this third win. And to turn around and do it on the road again in Washington with a reeling Washington team that is also looking to maintain their level of their level of salience essentially in the NFC postseason picture with the Eagles pulling further and further away. I don't think that we should lower the bar so much on them, even though I acknowledge that what they're trying to do has a pretty high degree of difficulty.
So now they're trying to contain Jaden Daniels and the Commanders' offense. Daniels has plateaued a little bit. I don't know how much has to do with the rib injury that he kind of got dinged up on a few weeks ago.
Well, they're playing him a lot different, too.
Yeah. Zach Lyons made this point on Titans Talkback Sunday as well. Cliff Kingsbury's offenses in Arizona would they would tail off in the second half of the season.
Oh, famously. Yeah. Didn't with Hopkins, they started like 8-0 or something like that and then
cratered and lost in the wild card round. Even the year before that, they started 5-2 and then had a really rough backstretch of the season and ended up losing 6 or 7 games. So, yeah, maybe that is a factor here. It'll be interesting because Daniels was playing at that MVP level, and then now Bo Nix is kind of on his tail in that Offensive Rookie of the Year discussion because Nix is surging at this point.
So Brian Callahan's main theme at the press conference today seemed to be like, well, we're not dead yet, right? 3-8, 3.5 games out of first place in the AFC South are the Tennessee Titans, and that's basically the mindset that they have to take, the approach that they absolutely have to take to try and finish this thing off in as meaningful a way as humanly possible. I think that in particular, I mean, they could finish. Yes, is it possible for them to finish with a winning record if they run the table? Sure. All things are possible, I suppose, in professional sports. And I'll say this, like, I stopped leaving teams outright for dead after a certain point, really after covering that 2022 season, because what the Jags did was one of the most improbable things I've ever seen in my life. And what the Titans did to crater that way was one of the most improbable things I've ever seen in my life. So professional athletes, they're not there by fluke. They're not there by chance. They're not there by luck. Like, these people, these coaches, these players, they are at the top of their profession for a reason. They can get hot at any given point. It's like the Eli Manning argument. Is Eli Manning a good quarterback on aggregate? Most people would probably pick that apart in a more nuanced discussion, but he has the 2 Super Bowls. He went on a run in those 2 Super Bowls because he's a professional athlete, and professional athletes can get going at any given point, and he just happened. I mean, the Joe Flacco argument, right? The run through the Super Bowl. Is Joe Flacco elite? Like, those kind of discussions. And there's nothing elite about the Titans right now, but they still have the opportunity to at least show that they belong at this level. And he's citing in that press conference, they've played some really stout and difficult schemes in the last couple of weeks. He thinks they've done a lot of positive things. He's talked about the level of competency that he believes to be roiling or bubbling under the surface. But the thing that will get this thing going the most, it's 70-40 right now.
Yeah, it is a disaster. When you get a media timeout and somebody comes off the baseline to wipe up the sweat on a basketball court, right now that person, that staffer that comes off the baseline with the towel is Louisville, and the towel they are holding is Indiana, because they are mopping the floor.
Oh, I would have said that the sweat is Indiana.
With Indiana
Lower
right
than
now.
The towel is
a lot
Indiana.
of Indiana tears on that floor, too. I think I see a couple players crying.
This is ugly, and it's just getting uglier and uglier. Can we hear from Greg Cosell, Jackson, to give Buck a reprieve here, because I don't know if he can talk anymore with how bad this beatdown is. Oh, just embarrassing.
I just can't say the things that I want to say into an FCC-safe microphone.
Can we hear from Greg Cosell about the progress he has seen from Will Levis?
Is continuing to play with a better sense of poise and composure. It's odd because the offensive line in pass pro was not very good this week. I thought Latham had one of his worst games in quite a while. He really struggled with his former Alabama teammate, Will Anderson. He struggled a couple of times as well with Daniil Hunter. But he had one of his worst games. But there were 7 sacks in the first half, and I don't know how Coach Callahan sees it. I was trying to look really, really carefully. To me, with maybe the exception of one, I'm not sure there was a clean throw for Levis. Now, could he have thrown it away or thrown it at somebody's feet? That's a different question, and maybe that's what they want him to do, rather than, of course, take a sack and lose yardage. But I didn't think that he missed a lot. Now, I will say, just as we continue our discussion of Levis, that there's 2 things that he clearly needs to get better at. And I think he's starting to get a better feel, but they still need improvement. One is he needs just to get quicker with his elimination and isolation from the pocket. He still shows a tendency at times to be a beat slow in coming off what's not there and getting to what is there. That's what elimination and isolation means. The other thing that I think is something that he clearly needs to work on and needs improvement is pocket movement. He needs to develop a better feel for navigating within the pocket, not trying to run out of the pocket, navigating within the pocket so he can reset his throwing platform to deliver the ball. Because he misses an opportunity here and there because he doesn't really have that trait at the necessary level. But overall, you're seeing incremental improvement in his game.
That's Greg Cosell of NFL Films describing the way that Will Levis is handling the situations that he's being presented. And I think, to the point of a caller earlier who brought up the level of struggle around the Titans' offensive line right now, I think, Greg kind of affirming he's not getting a ton of clean looks, even though he's taking these sacks, even though he's some of these are self-inflicted wounds. Like the thing that I would take as reassuring or most reassuring about that discussion is that he didn't miss anything, right? He's not leaving a bunch of plays on the field to be made. Can he get better? Can he get cleaner? Can he get more efficient in this? Yeah, again, it wasn't a perfect performance, but there's just, it's a problem because it's just enough there to make you feel like you have some hope. And I don't know if that's going to be the Will Levis special to just give you enough, right? To just give you enough, or can you do the improbable, which at this point for this team would be winning back-to-back games for the first time since October of 22. If he did that, if he was a part of that, quarterback wins are a flawed stat. You don't have to be an advanced analytics person to understand that Will Levis did not win the game in Miami this year, even though he's credited with it. But if he could be a meaningful part of them going on the road, beating the Washington Commanders, another team that we believe to be at least of above average quality, certainly of above average quality in the NFL this year, and if he could do it without consequential setbacks, right? There's going to be setbacks. There are going to be bad plays. Defenders are going to make a play. Like, he's not a perfect quarterback at this point in time. But that would buy him, I think, legitimate goodwill moving forward, not just from the organization, but from the people around him who are looking at him and being like, all right, can you do this? Can you do this? Can it not just be one outlier in Houston on that given day? We'll see.
I want to see him throw the ball away Sunday.
That would be big. That would be big. I would like to throw my basketball team away.
Stop. They're already dead.
74-40.
My goodness.
It's just, why would people in Maui even bother with this? Or it's not Maui, it's Atlantis. But why just go outside.
Beautiful out there.
Go enjoy the wonderful Bahamas instead of wasting your time on this terrible, terrible basketball team.
Could Louisville go up 50?
Probably.
Find out next.
God. You know how I know it's bad? Lucas doesn't even want to make fun of me for how bad my basketball team's losing. Jackson is throwing up the Louisville double L signal at me from behind the studio as Louisville takes the 78-41 lead. In the battle for Atlantis, there is no battle. There is no fight. This team is left for dead. If they were in Gladiator, they would get both thumbs down.
It is, I mean, you're talking about a lob on one end and then a rejection block on the other, and it's just piling on.
It is getting disrespectful.
Yeah, Louisville's doing their damnedest to make this a 40-point deficit, and still got another media timeout to go.
I'm convinced that I can't have any joy in my sports life. I got one good run. I got one good year of Indiana basketball while I was there my sophomore year. My freshman year when they beat Anthony Davis was a nice thing. And then the sophomore year, the way that they were the number one team in the country, and then Tom Crean couldn't figure out the zone of Syracuse, and the best team that Indiana has had put together in God knows how long just pooped itself in the Sweet 16.
Tom Crean, who was at the Harbaugh house on Monday night watching the game. They were tweeting about it that Jack and Jackie Harbaugh were celebrating their 63rd anniversary at Joni Harbaugh's house, Tom Crean's wife, and they were just watching the game on TV. Still can't get over that Jack and Jackie had 3 kids named Joni, Jim, and John, like it's a cartoon.
Well, they are a bit of a cartoon family.
I guess. But, be serious. Come on.
I can't be serious about anything. My basketball team is cheeks. I mean, truly cheeks. If you put them against Tennessee right now, what would happen?
They played an exhibition. Indiana
That's
pulled
true.
that one out.
You did beat Tennessee in an exhibition.
See, look at them. Look at them trying to make me feel better.
It's okay, buddy.
You got the one. You got the one that didn't matter.
That was a big win for y'all. Might be the best win of the year.
Well, let's see. Nick points out in the FNM Bank chat, the Vols beat Louisville by 22. Transitive property. Louisville is currently leading by 33. So you do the math.
35.
35 now. Yeah, they just scored again.
We have to end this radio show before I harm myself on camera because I'm dangerously close.
Just go to the polls.
Polls.
Back to back with the Godfather.
Just confirming that this is the most mailed-in day in all of the American workforce. 21 turnovers in a basketball game? How? 8 points off turnovers?
Allowed 27.
I swear to God.
It gets worse. There you go. There's a bucket. Oh, man. I need to watch Godfather this weekend.
You're already watching the extended cut
Lord of the Rings.
I mean,
4 hours last night. It was awesome.
Tell me you don't have enough to do in your life without high school football without telling me
I don't have a game to prep for this week for the first time since last February. And so I don't know what to do with myself. And
I would like to send Indiana basketball to the shadows.
Watching 4-hour movies. Godfather might be next. Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. How many SEC teams will make the college football playoff? 64% say 3, 36% say 4.
I'm going to err on the side of caution and say 4.
For it to be 4, I don't know if that's the side of caution. Side of caution, the safer, more conservative pick is 3. For it to be 4, you're talking about A&M having to beat Texas and then beat Georgia in the SEC championship. In that case, the SEC championship loser gets in. In Georgia, you imagine would be in. In Texas and Tennessee, you imagine would be in.
I'm so happy we hit a 3 down 82-50.
Provided
Hoosiers hit a huge lead, 3 to cut the lead down to 42.
Shut up back there.
Which 3-loss SEC team is most likely to sneak into the college football playoff? Who would it be? 73% say Bama would be the most likely team to sneak on in there. 17% say South Carolina. 9.8% of the audience say Ole Miss. Yeah, Ole Miss is out because of how bad the loss is to Kentucky. South Carolina has a chance at a very quality win. South Carolina is rooting for obviously beating Clemson this weekend and then Bama to lose the Iron Bowl, and Notre Dame to lose to USC.
Somebody just said in the comments, if you don't binge the extended Lord of the Rings trilogy once every 3 years, then Sauron wins.
That's great work by Kent. I haven't watched it in about 6 years, so I'm overdue. What is the most... Jackson's never seen any of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Have not seen those movies.
What is the most positive story that you've seen in sports this week? I didn't see this one. Det says the Southern Illinois quarterback coming out of retirement to lead his team to a win and break school records.
We did a terrible job talking about TSU football this year.
Yeah, Eddie George.
We did not mention in our Wednesday/Friday fire that TSU is going to the playoffs this year, that Eddie George has done the thing that so many other teams or other programs are trying to recreate or saying that they're going to recreate. He's a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Award. He's got a 9-3 regular season record, their first conference title since 1999, and the first FCS playoff berth since 2013. That should have been a Friday Fire submission. Congratulations to Eddie George and the TSU Tigers.
Eddie. Very cool. Can the Vikings fix Daniel Jones?
It was a very lonely Eddie chant.
It was. Nobody joined me. 60.7% say no, they cannot fix Danny Dimes.
No, I don't think so either, but it can be a backup.
I disagree. If you can fix Sam Darnold, I think you can fix Daniel Jones.
No, I think you're underrating the level of broken that Daniel Jones has been behind it. Just dreadful.
That's what they said about
year
Darnold.
After year after year.
Darnold was seeing ghosts.
Daniel Jones had way more success with the Giants than Darnold did with the Jets.
It's true. The highs of Daniel Jones with the Giants much higher than Darnold with the Jets.
Giants fans would argue the opposite because that one playoff win set them back so much.
They took every wrong turn possible after that, but still, that is a fact. What is the most toxic rivalry week rivalry?
Ooh.
Sam says Ohio State, Michigan, and it is not even close. The dynamics around that game are interesting this year because Ryan Day is trying to end a 3-game losing skid. Can you imagine the discourse in Columbus if Ohio State were to lose?
It would be delightful.
To a 5-loss Michigan team.
The only redeeming quality of Indiana athletics this week.
Yeah, we've got submissions for Texas A&M. I think that wins this year because of the renewal.
It's been so long. You know they don't like each other.
And the stakes.
The stakes are huge.
It's a play-in game for the SEC championship. I mean, you could not come up with better stakes going in, and for A&M, it's an elimination game.
82-50. Can they just call the game? I would like for them to just end the game.
Mississippi State Ole Miss, I usually is what I submit for the most toxic rivalry.
Egg
but
Bowl doesn't have it this year.
I think it always has it. Mississippi State has looked lifeless, and we'll see how Ole Miss responds after getting eliminated. So that game could be interesting. Also, I doubt it'll get spicy, but Georgia Tech, Georgia is on Friday, as is the Egg Bowl. So, there could be some weirdness on a college football Black Friday coming up later this week. But, yeah, plenty of high stakes across the board with rivalry week. Always fun. Those are the polls.
Sue Ann says, Eddie George was my Friday Fire. Chris messed me up. Did we not take Sue Ann's call in favor of that person that called us 3 times and didn't understand that I was hanging up on him and not that the line dropped?
The line dropped. Yeah, because we dropped
I hung up on you. Get out of here.
I did not see Sue Ann on the line.
I also never got a call from Sue Ann.
You just got 3 from Chris.
Play the music, but what are we doing here?
That's a fitting way to end the radio show week.
Strong finish.
Just unbelievable. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll leave you alone for the next couple of days. Back at it Monday after the Titans play the Commies.